Hey everybody, welcome to our weekend check-in video for WSTS-47 Intro to LGB Studies for Saturday, February 5th. And as always, I'm just going to go over a few items to just remind you about some things, clarify some things, and just anything I think you need to have a heads up on to do well in the course. First up here is that our most recent quiz on Chapter 3. I did post those scores earlier in the week, so do take a look in the Canvas gradebook to see what you got there, and I'll be handing those Scamtrons back to you on class Wednesday so you can just see which exact questions you got right or wrong there. Hopefully, I think most of you got them all right as usual, which is good to see. Uh, also, per our class calendar there, if you noticed on your schedule, next Wednesday we're going to be covering Chapter 4, the first half of it there at least, and we do not have a quiz scheduled for Chapter 4 next time because, again, Chapter 4 going to be covered in two separate lectures because it's a pretty long chapter and the content is really important and I just don't want to rush through any of that content there. And so we will have our quiz on chapter 4 next Wednesday on the 16th there. So not the 9th coming up, but the following Wednesday. So just to kind of give you a heads up about that. And by the way, in chapter 4, just so you know where I plan to go to, we're going to be covering the first topic in the chapter, which starts out with the AIDS crisis, which is a pretty big deal, as some of you may know about there. I certainly lived through that myself back in the 80s there and into the 90s. And also, we're going to cover from the AIDS crisis all the way through hate crimes, which is definitely not a fun topic to cover, but it's pretty important stuff. And some of the hate crimes are pretty infamous you may know about, but others maybe you haven't heard about there. So we're going to talk about those. And also, as far as the hate crimes content in your textbook, there I'm planning to at least cover hate crimes up through the ones that are noted in the United States. There's a whole separate section there on international hate crimes, and we'll probably pick up with that the following Wednesday there because there's some pretty important ones to talk about there too. And again, I imagine maybe some of you haven't heard about those in other countries, and some of them are really pretty barbaric and horrific too, but we'll get to that next time. And otherwise, and after we cover the last part of chapter 4 the following week on the 16th, that following Wednesday on the 23rd, then we'll finally have our first exam over these first 4 chapters. So it's been a little while since we get to our first exam, but I think I mentioned in lecture a few times that some of the content now that they have in the first part of the course, which is all about history, you may recall, under the categories that I've got there on your course calendar. Some of that material used to be later in the textbook, but they moved some of it into the earlier chapters, so it just makes for a longer amount of material I have to cover there, and it just takes a bit more time, but we'll get through it. And I'm sure you're all learning some great stuff, probably things you didn't learn about before anywhere else, and so I'm hoping that you're getting some eye-opening experiences there with the course because I know first time I learned about these things, again, I had not heard about a lot of them before unless I just known about them from my own personal life experience and history and the news and everything. But otherwise, that's all I wanted to say this time. I hope you're doing well. Hope you're staying safe. If you need anything in the meanwhile, just reach out via email on Canvas and I'll be glad to get back to you. Otherwise, I will see you in class Wednesday night. So take care until then.